I need to talk about Project Zomboid. Project Zomboid is my favorite game, and has been for a while. At first I didn't really understand it, and because of that it was hard, and I died quickly, and didn't have fun. But, once I took the time to learn the game, I fell in love with it. If you don't know, Project Zomboid is a single-player zombie apocalypse survival game. It's not an awesome shooter with super cool guns and power-ups like COD Zombies. It's just a simple, realistic survival game. Walk around, scavenge, eat, kill. And it's very precise. You need specific tools to do specific things. You need a can opener to eat canned foods. You need a battery to use a flashlight. You need a gas to drive a car, but before that, you need to find the keys to said car. It gets a little annoying sometimes, to be honest. What do you mean I need gloves or a tool to clear glass from a broken window? I can do that with my bare hands if I'm not a pussy. And these are all very obvious and self-explanatory things. But they're not things you think about in a video game. Once you get an understanding of these things, then gameplay goes a lot smoother. You know what to look for and what your top priority is. But the gameplay and mechanics aren't necessarily what makes it my favorite game. It's the atmosphere within the world and the implications left behind. Now, really quickly, there is technically lore to Project Zomboid that can be found in newspaper and radio stations, and there's also a mysterious elevator in a government facility somewhere. But I'm not talking about the overarching story here. I want to talk about the small things that just, I don't know, they make me sad. How else do I say it? I'm not a poet. So, to introduce you to what I mean, I'm going to read you a message I sent to a good friend of mine after I played Project Zomboid for the first time in a while. Today I played Project Zomboid. First time in a while. Such a great game, I love it. But there was this one zombie I came across that made me really sad. She was all dressed up in a black silk dress, long black gloves, heels, even emerald earrings and a silver necklace. She must have had a special night ahead of her. She was probably a beautiful woman with a beautiful life. So cheerful and kind, and yet, there I was, standing 10 feet in front of her with a bloody baseball bat as she limped her way towards me, thirsting for blood after having been reduced to a mindless corpse, a shell that once belonged to a special woman. Perhaps she would be proposed to that night. Maybe she had a hunch. So she wore her prettiest dress, did her hair, her makeup, even wore her special emerald earrings given to her by her late mother. I bet the man was wonderful. So excited to ask this woman if he could have the honor of being a part of her life forever. But they never got their dinner. They never got their life. And even though she had already been stripped of all her humanity, a tear still dug its way through the blood, sweat, and grime on my face as I swung that bat. She was cried for at birth, cried for at graduation. She was cried for on her worst days and on her best days. And even after death, after her life and everyone she knew became mulch in the earth, someone still cried for her. The zombies themselves are the deepest indicator of the life here that once was. You'll come across policemen, doctors, firefighters, scientists. Then you'll come across regular people, mothers and fathers, husbands and wives. Sometimes you'll find a zombie with a gun or a bat, and maps and matches and food, and clearly they were a survivor. They were prepared and they tried their best. But then you'll come across her. She had no clue what was coming for her. She had no preparation, no chance. Just a woman, all dressed up, looking forward to whatever the day held for her. Unfortunately, it was the cold grasp of death. No, it was worse than that. She didn't get a proper death. No one was there for her when she died. No one grieved for her. She wasn't laid to rest in the cold but comforting embrace of Mother Earth. She was reanimated as a mindless, soulless mimicry of herself. A mockery of everything she lived for, brought down pathetically by a bitch with a bat. The first time I noticed these hauntingly sad undertones, I entered an untouched home. No broken windows or signs of struggle. Everything seemed to be in its proper place. Then I entered the dining room, and the reality of the world I wandered sunk in. The table in front of me was completely set, a plate at nearly every seat. It was all perfectly there, waiting for a family dinner. Even the food was untouched, cold and rotten on the plates. And I realized they didn't even get a final family meal. They cooked their food, set the table, all seemingly sat down, a normal routine for this normal family. And then the virus broke out, and the last moment they had together was left to rot on the kitchen table. Project Zomboid recently had a pretty big update. While I haven't explored the new big changes, I've definitely noticed smaller ones. I've found diaries and letters in bedside tables, kids' toys and poorly drawn pictures on the ground in a small room, but you can't interact with these things. I've tried reading a diary and it tells me, no, sorry, nothing of interest here. So why add them? Why have these signs of life dangling in front of me if there's no use for them? Is it really just to torture me? Make me feel worse about the situation I'm in than I already do? In one nightstand, I found what was said to be a harshly worded letter. At first, I thought nothing of it, kind of giggled at it. What a funny and strange thing to add. Then later I realized that the letter itself isn't the point. It's the fact that this person received a harshly worded letter that meant enough to them that they kept it in their nightstand. Maybe it was from someone they cared about, and this letter was the last they heard from this person before the apocalypse happened. As far as they know, the person who wrote the letter thinks those harsh things about them. Last interaction they had was angry. And this person died with the knowledge that this person, who once probably meant a lot to them, now hates them. A relationship that can never be fixed or rekindled, and instead its remnants are cemented in death. Or maybe it was the other way around, and the one who had the letter in the nightstand was the one who wrote it and hadn't sent it yet. But it's still a falling out of a once precious relationship, and neither party got any sort of closure. They never got to make up with one another, and the last they heard from each other was that harshly worded letter, and now it's the only evidence of their relationship left. The diaries, at least I imagine, are filled with hopes and dreams of kids and people who thought their life would amount to more than limping through the streets in search of their only desire left, flesh. The children's drawings depict the very zombies crawling around outside as what they once were, humans filled with love, loved by others. Loved by the smallest children with the biggest hearts, who I don't even want to imagine what happened to them. I'm just grateful there are no child zombies. It's a sad fate to one moment have a life full of hope and love, and then instantly become nothing but rotten flesh wandering aimlessly in the streets. I believe there are people alive outside Knox County, Kentucky, but even with all these people to remember the tragedy, they won't remember the victims. Well, they won't remember them as people, that is. To everyone else in the world, they'll just be zombies. Obstacles to shoot down and clear out. None of these people will get a proper end or a proper burial. They won't be grieved for. If anything, they'll be feared. But then I kill these zombies and discover their remnants of life, and then I wonder, whose fate is worse? Theirs or mine? The virus was originally spread by saliva, and then an airborne strain developed, speeding up the infectious spread. However, there were some who were immune to the airborne strain. I, as the player, am one of those. The immune were few, though, and quickly weeded out. Though, throughout the game, there are signs of life in the area around me. Sometimes you'll hear distant gunshots, or worse, a distant scream. Every now and then, a house or car alarm will be triggered, though that could just be a zombie breaking in as well. But even though there are signs that there are others, I'll never find them. Even if I track down the gunshots, or the scream, or follow the sound of the alarm, they'll always be dead before I get there. I'm fated to be alone. The other night, as I was playing, I found a lookout tower in the middle of the woods. I settled in, rested, cared for myself, and then turned on the ham radio. It was nothing but static. Every channel, every frequency, silence. But I still sat there with hope that maybe, just maybe, somebody else would be out there. Is it worse to be alive with no hope, or mocked in death? Project Zomboid is probably the saddest and most existential game I've played. But the thing is, half the time you don't even realize how haunting this world that you're in is. There's no story for you to follow, they don't tell you what happened and why you should be sad about it, yet it's all there in front of you. So subtle and ordinary, you might not even think about it. But all around you are signs of a life that once was, and it's all so human. You find letters and diaries and lockets with pictures of lost loves within them, and you're forced to think about it and realize that these were all people. They so subtly place these things for you to discover and think about, and once you do, it forces sympathy onto you for these corpses crawling with maggots that you brutally and mercilessly kill again. And you can't do anything about it. It's either kill or be killed. but even then, you will end up dead all alone anyway. When you start the game, it literally says, there was no hope for survival. This is how you died. From the start, you were promised death in the end. But despite that, I still sit there in a lookout tower in the middle of the woods, listening to the empty buzz of the ham radio, hoping that despite all odds, somebody will be there. There is no story in Project Zomboid. There are no characters to attach to and feel bad for. It's just little evidences of life. And that's what makes it so devastating. Because it's all left up to you to piece together what happened. All these people who once lived, laughed, loved, reduced to nothing in an instant, and will only be remembered by their demise. You included.